Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County, and this show is about Plymouth County real estate. Our headline for the month was Spring Market Shows Promise, and we're going to have a couple of great guests in the second segment of the show, Michele Pecoraro and Arata of Plymouth 400, and in the third segment of the show, we're going to talk about some of our notable land records. So we're going to go right to an image of deeds. So the number of sales in Plymouth County for March increased over February. There were 759 deeds recorded, up from the 572 in February, down 2% from the 773 last March. But for 3 months in calendar year 17, we're up 2%. The next image you're going to see is of mortgages. Mortgages are what people either take out when they're purchasing a home, or mortgages would also be when someone refinances their property. There were 1,645 recorded in March, more than the 1,254 in February, down 16% compared to last March, and year to date we're down 6%. The drop in, or the rise in interest rate has somewhat affected the number of people refinancing, and we'll have to keep an eye on that as we go forward. The next image you're going to see is of foreclosure deeds. Foreclosure deed is when someone has lost their property to their lender, usually for non-payment. There were 66 foreclosure deeds recorded in March, more than the 54 in February of this year, but 13% less than last March. Through the first 3 months of 2017, there's been a 10% drop in the number of foreclosure deeds. The next document you're going to see is a bar chart of foreclosure notices. Foreclosure notices are the first notification we get at the registry that a property is in trouble. People receive that notice also. 85 foreclosure notices recorded in March, less than the 119 in February, 24% less than last March. Many lenders, though, are getting caught up with properties that have been lingering out there for a long time, delayed by lawsuits or state regulations, and they're going forward on those. So anyone that finds themselves in trouble ought to try to reach out to a federal housing counselor immediately. There's a listing next of foreclosures and orders and notices by all 27 communities in Plymouth County. The city of Brockton and the town of Plymouth have had the most impact over the years. You can see that in the listing. And then I want to talk about some of the news at the registry, our training room, which is a free opportunity to come and have hands-on training for how to search our internet site, was held on April 6th. The next one will be Thursday, May 4th. It's a 2-hour training session from 9 to 11. That's Thursday, May 4th. Please call our office to register because the space is limited. On our site, you can see a property fraud alert, a free way to find out if somebody is putting something on record for your property. There's still a display in our corridor relative to the Rochester Historical Society. We held office hours in Wareham on March 30th. We'll be doing office hours again in West Bridgewater on Thursday, April 27th. And I just want to recognize that in our next segment, again, we have two great guests, Michele Pecoraro, Executive Director of the Plymouth 400, and Arata will be talking about some of the activities of the Plymouth 400 and some of the efforts that are going forward to help fund those efforts. So we'll see you in the next segment.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it here. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the site.
Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always try to do something that is important to people out there. We've had many people connected with the real estate community commercial real estate brokers, surveyors, appraisers, anybody that's involved in the real estate market. But today I have two special guests, Michele Pecoraro. Michele, welcome.
Hi, how are you, John? Thank you for having me.
And Nat Arata.
Yep. Hi, John. Thank you.
Nat has recently joined Plymouth 400, and we've talked a lot about history on this show before, and certainly the viewers out there know that what is coming very quickly is the Plymouth 400th, and you've been working with the Plymouth 400 for a number of years now, and
Yes.
bringing a lot of things forward. Why don't you just give our viewers just a quick little background about yourself, Michele?
Sure, John. My name is Michele Pecoraro. I'm the Executive Director for Plymouth 400. I just hit my 3-year anniversary on March 10th, so really literally halfway point for this commemoration in 2020. And we've been working on a lot of initiatives to raise awareness and engagement of our local community, of course, because that's where you have to build first, and statewide and then nationally. So some recent things that have happened for Plymouth 400 is we have a state commission now of 35 people from both the private and public sector. And that state commission, sanctioned by the governor, it will be something that will help us in our endeavors to make this a national commemoration. We have many, many business partners. We have over 100 business and organizational partners that support Plymouth 400. So we thank our business partners, and we invite anyone interested to go to our website and find out more. We have a very broad volunteer base that we have been building over the last year with Volunteer 101. We call them Volunteer 101
Sure. Yeah.
sessions. So we invite people in to find out what things there are to do. And now that we're getting closer, we have more events and places that we need to be and things that need to be done. So we have over 300 volunteers signed up, and we have a good solid core of about 75 to 100 right now. So that needs to be built because, of course, in 2020 we're going to need a lot of volunteers, thousands. So that's another thing that's been going on with us. Our license plate auction just started today.
Oh, right.
So we already have bids up. It's an online auction that will culminate in a live auction on June 3rd up in Boston at New England Historic Genealogical Society.
Do you want to explain to people, because this show will be on before then?
Absolutely. So, so we started today with an online license plate auction, and the auction is for low plates, 1 through 99, and historically significant dates like 1620 and 2020 and several other dates. So that started today, and you can go to myplymouthplate.org and find out more about license plates. Many people have probably seen the plate around. It has our logo on it, which is the Mayflower and an outline of a native person standing on the shore. And it's a pretty popular plate. And we are looking forward to raising a good amount of money for the 400th commemoration through this online auction. But even if you just were to purchase a specialty plate, Plymouth 400 plate, $40 is what that would cost for a 2-year period. And that also comes back to Plymouth 400 to help with the cause. So even if you don't want to bid on a plate, you can always order a plate online.
Great. And there's a new person you want to introduce?
Absolutely. So I brought with me today our new Director of Development, J. Nathaniel Arata, affectionately known as Nat.
Yes.
Right.
And
Welcome.
Nat's been with us for 2 weeks so far.
Right.
But comes to us from a lot of really important places, especially in the synergy of having a history background as well as a development background.
Yeah.
Nat's that person. So
Great.
Nat,
Welcome.
I'm gonna
Thank you, John.
let you talk
Thank
more
you.
about your
Yes.
background.
Well, I grew up in Marblehead, Massachusetts.
Oh, great.
Which is, of course, North Shore of Boston.
Yep.
And as I say, I've always grown up around history. Instead of saying, I'll meet you down by the field, we used to say, I'll meet you at Old Burial Hill, or, by Old North Church.
Sure.
So, history was always in the air ever since I was very little. It's always been a part of my life. And So professionally, I've worked in nonprofit fundraising for history for about 17 years now. I started my career at Old Sturbridge Village.
Sure.
And worked with Alberta Seawalt George when she was president there. And we did a large capital campaign for the grounds there when I first got out of college. And then I went on to get my master's at the University of Chicago. I did it in humanities and actually on the fading American rural ideal, which combined a number of different things, economic history, but also literature and even some art, so art history. And then from there I went to the Chicago History Museum, and I was there for 7 years, and we celebrated Lincoln's bicentennial there.
Oh, sure.
So that was a really important moment for us, and the museum that I worked for held many different Lincoln holdings. They had the deathbed, which people forget that Lincoln never made it home after he was shot at the theater. He went across the street, and that's where he was taken care of. And the museum actually had the deathbed itself. So that was an important piece of history that we really needed to fundraise around and to keep relevant for people as we went forward. And so from there, I went to Mystic Seaport, where I did fundraising for the Charles W. Morgan, which is the last wooden whale ship in the world. And as we used to tell people, if you had the last pencil sharpener in the world, you would create a $20 million campaign to try to save the last pencil sharpener. But in this case, it's a very important thing that we were able to do, and we successfully raised the money to restore her and to sail her, as I think most people know, both through the canal and out to Provincetown, and eventually out to Arthur's Vineyard.
Sure.
So I have my harpoon on the wall for a successful campaign. They actually gave me a harpoon when I left the museum. And from there, I've been working at different places, and then now I am working with Michele on this very important anniversary.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like you have a lot of great skills you're going to bring.
Yeah, I think it's an important story. It's America's founding story, and that's really an important point. And I think that hopefully what I can bring to the table is a little bit of a larger perspective about how the story is America's story and how it plays into a much larger context. It's an important Plymouth story, to no doubt, but really it's shared across the world, and it's important for us to be able to articulate that. And when we're sitting with people, talking to them about how they can contribute, that's the perspective I'm going to bring. Is that this is everybody's story. This is a very important moment in history, not necessarily an important place in history.
Right.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've found interesting in our connection from the Registry of Deeds perspective is really the foundation in America of private property rights.
Wow.
That more in Bradford's journal, the reasons for it during the starvation period of the time, that they've just found that they got better production out of everyone when they made that move from common ownership to private property rights. And I know you're going to come join me afterwards at our vault of the colonial records that Michele's been over to see before.
It's very exciting.
And some of the original documents, many of them in the handwriting of William Bradford. It's like
I know. And so is the Plymouth Registry of Deeds, they must hold the oldest records in the country, for the most part.
Well, we consider ourselves America's first registry of deeds because when we were building the building, we checked all around the country relative to land records components, and went to Jamestown, went to the Southwest, went to other parts, Fort down in Florida and all these different places.
Right, St. Augustine.
St. Augustine, and really there were no organized land record system like the colonists did.
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
And the one of the documents I'm going to show you today that I know I've shown on the show before is a document in the handwriting of Bradford that lays out, the corner of where Leiden Street came down and where Brewster now Gardens are and things like that. Pretty incredible. And people that come in, we have a display corridor in our building. There, people are fascinated, and while they're waiting around for closing, we really decided to show off a lot of our history. And there are so many people come into our building looking for research, and they're sons and daughters of the Mayflower descendants.
Yes.
And it's not like Governor Bradford was thinking in 1627
Right.
about 2017.
Right.
But the fact that his actions or the
Sure.
actions of the colony have reverberated down the ages is a remarkable story.
Right.
It really
right.
is.
Yeah.
And so we're basically, we have on the wall the listing of all county registers, which started in 1685 and all the way back to the colonial governors who oversaw the land records,
Wow.
starting with Bradford. And believe it or not, from all those years back to the 1620s, I'm only the 22nd person to serve in that, in that
Wow,
position.
really?
Right.
Well,
So
That's good news for you.
Amazing. Longevity.
yeah.
it's quite an honor. We actually, unfortunately, had a service that we buried my predecessor yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Former Registry of Deeds Jack Reardon, who really
Right.
led
Jack.
the change of technology. Him and his assistant, who was there, to start allowing satellite offices through T1 lines and all the changes that nobody would have thought of back in the 1600s.
Sure.
When it was a quill pen copying everything down onto paper
That's
or
right.
parchment.
Or
at that
parchment,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I was telling Michele about David Hackett Fisher's book. It's called Albion Seed, and it really is about how different areas in the Northeast, how you can't get away from the real founding communities.
Right.
Right.
Places, in the Mid-Atlantic, it was more Dutch.
Yes.
Here, it's very English and Puritan.
Right.
And those founding fathers and mothers, it's amazing how much we reflect what they were able to put down originally.
Right.
And we forget about
Wow.
that.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But the way that we live our lives and the way that we talk to each other, the way the food that we eat,
Yeah.
the chowders that we eat, are all very reflective of that history.
Well, I know
Absolutely.
that as you go forward,
Yeah.
you're going to try to get out and make connections with organizations
Yes.
that basically are of the same philosophy that we are in terms of private property rights. And I've had conversations with the South Shore Realtor Group
Yes.
now,
Okay.
and actually the president of the Mass Realtors,
Okay.
who will be very interested in making a connection. And all of that comes along with that
Yes.
would be very good.
Well, we invite a lot of our Massachusetts organizations to join us. It is going to be good, not just from the perspective of a commemoration, just because the history is so important, but it's going to be great for the economy of Massachusetts as
Right.
well, and that's something that we can't lose sight of.
Yeah, and so just another point while we're talking, and I know the people watching will find this interesting too, is one of the decisions the colonial court made was the decision to have trial by jury. So I know both bar associations and others are very interested in the fact that they took that tradition from England and adopted it here by vote,
Interesting.
and was the first place in America to bring forward that concept.
That's right.
Which is pretty interesting.
It's a fascinating thing.
We have a lot of firsts here, and that's something
Yes.
else we need to
Yeah.
bring to the surface.
Sure.
Is
Yeah.
a lot of things happened here first.
Yeah.
So.
So
Very
do you want to both share your contact information for the public?
Sure. The
Yeah.
the website for Plymouth 400 is Plymouth400 Inc. as incorporated .org, and my name's Michele Pecoraro, and you can always find all of our contact information on that website. Nat, I don't know
Yes.
if you want to give your.
Yes, I mean, I'm happy and willing to speak to as many people as I possibly can. So if anybody has any questions, they can either email me through the website or give me a call. We'd be happy to discuss things.
So what will your first approach be, Nat, to try to gather that increased interest that you're
Well,
responsible for?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different approaches, but I think that the brand itself, the idea of Plymouth 400, is a very strong one. So we definitely want to start conversations with major corporations throughout the state and the region. But also, I love getting people together with history, getting them together with objects like that you oversee. So we're going to be doing a number of opportunities, I think, in the coming months where we're going to get different groups together to see real artifacts and to connect directly to the story.
Great.
So I'm excited about that as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So we're going to have a good summer. Is that?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
We're
We're on the fast track now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're on the fast track.
We kind of got teased a little bit
Yeah.
a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And so there's certainly a lot of opportunities for people as they get out and do their traveling
Right.
to come in and get some knowledge about some of the events.
Sure, absolutely. And we even have some events that go on now. We have a summer event, our Bass and Blue fishing tournament, and
Yep.
we have a fall event in the Illuminate Thanksgiving event that we do within the confines of the parade weekend. So there's a lot going on. Yeah.
And I know that there is one display that's traveling around.
Yes, we
now.
have our traveling native exhibit, our
Yeah.
Wampanoag history, 400 years of Wampanoag history. It's called Our Story. Right now that's in Weymouth, but it has been all over the state. It's going up to Amherst. It's traveling a lot. So.
And that'll spread the story.
It spreads the story, and for the first time ever, we're telling the Wampanoag story. Wampanoag people are telling the Wampanoag story, not us, in their own voice. So that's a big departure from other commemorations that we've had here in Plymouth.
And so your website, for people that would be looking to find those events?
www.plymouth400inc.org.
Okay. Nat, your information one more time for people that might be interested in
Yes,
working
again,
with you?
it's Nat Arata at Plymouth 400, and you can find my information on the website. And I am willing and able to talk to anybody who's interested.
That's right.
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you both.
Thank you so much,
Thank
John,
you,
for
John.
having us.
Thanks. Yeah.
Look forward to it.
So we just talked.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to the Register's Report. Again, my name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. I want to thank Michele and Nat for the great job they did in talking about the Plymouth 400. It's really coming on very fast, and for people that are interested in history and the accomplishments of the colony, it's going to be a great opportunity. In advance of that, we have a great summer coming up that people can travel around to the various sites like Plymouth Plantation and Pilgrim Hall and so many places in Plymouth County that promotes the history of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always try to do something lighter in nature than previously. The holidays in April, opening day at Fenway Park, the 11th of April was the start of Passover, the 16th was Easter, the 17th was Patriots' Day, and a great marathon this year. The 18th is Tax Day, the 22nd is Earth Day. But we're going to talk about some of our notable land records. For anyone that watched a great Masters golf tournament this year, you might have seen that they talked about a very famous person in our notable land records. Herbert Warren Wind was a Brocktonian who was one of the world's most famous golf writers. He won a lot of awards, originally started golfing when he was young at the Brockton Stony Lee Golf Club. He wrote for the New Yorker and Sports Illustrated for decades, and he covered the Masters as any golf writer would. And one year, following around for the 11th, 12th, and 13th hole, he named it after Arnold Palmer's great play there. Amen Corner was named after a famous song, a famous jazz song, Shouting in Amen Corner. Every year when the Masters program comes on and shows all that beautiful green scenery, they talk about Herbert Warren Wind. and they talk about the naming of Amen Corner, and it's just a beautiful memory. And his portrait is displayed in the clubhouse, where they give away the green jacket every year for his accomplishments in golf writing and naming Amen Corner. We started the baseball season. Opening day was a great success for the Red Sox. So we're going to talk about a couple famous baseball connections. Mickey Cochran was a tremendous catcher. He played for Detroit and others, but he was one of the best athletes ever to play baseball. When he went to Boston University, he lettered in 5 sports. He played baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and boxing, and lettered in all of them. He was the greatest catcher of his era. He played and managed, a very fiery competitor. However, when he had his skull fractured from a pitch, he went into managing. And he is the only Plymouth County native elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and certainly well remembered. And last but not least, with the Red Sox 50th anniversary of the Impossible Dream year, 1967, a member of the broadcasting team that year, Ken Coleman, who lived in Plymouth, was legendary. And he broadcast that season and then did a vinyl record called The Impossible Dream that talked about that year, which many people remember. Kyle Yastrzemski, Rico Petrocelli, gentleman Jim Longborg, and the great accomplishment they did. There were 100-to-1 shots at making the pennant. They won it on the last day of the year, and even though they didn't win the World Series, it's still one of the best memories of Red Sox history, which has a lot of great history. So Ken Coleman has been inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame, and anybody that has a copy of a CD of The Impossible Dream, it's a great year to play that and listen to that again, as it's the 50th anniversary of that season. I want to thank Lorna Green Baker and Christine Richards for their help in putting this show together. The people here at PAC TV allow us to promote what happens out there in the real estate market, as well as some of the history of Plymouth County, and I want to thank them for that. We share this information with the public. It is their most valuable asset for most people, and talk a little bit about that. In some of our history, we're able to talk about the upcoming Plymouth 400th today. So I'll see you next month, and thanks again to PAC TV for its help.